Kidnapped Santa by Analynn Riley. Chapter 1. Arrivals. "There's Grandpa and Grandma!" Lauren shouted at the arrivals gate at the airport. We ran to get our hugs. "Welcome to Canada," Grandma said as she gave me a kiss. I could tell this was going to be an extra special Christmas. We soon collected our luggage, which was loaded with presents for everyone. We finally found Grandpa's car in the parkade. Snow! Oh, I sure hope it stays, 'cause I want to go sledding and skiing. I was thrilled to see all the snow, but was a bit worried as well. In Calgary, warm winds called Chinooks could come at any moment and melt the snow. What kind of Christmas would it be without snow? The drive to the ranch was long. Mom said it only took an hour or so, but it seemed like forever. Dad said we were tired because we went through a time zone, which meant we had to live the last 2 hours over again. Lauren had fallen asleep in the car. Mom and Dad talked with my grandparents for the entire trip. We finally arrived at the ranch. "There's Yuki!" Lauren exclaimed, waking up on cue. My sister had slept the entire way. "Where?" I couldn't see the dog anywhere. "There, running to meet us!" Lauren pointed, and only then did I see the huge dog bounding towards the car. Yuki's fur was so white that against the snowbanks his black nose was all that showed. I started laughing. "He looks like a polka dot moving down the lane." "Yuki's huge! He's grown so much since last summer. He's the size of a small pony. Hey, Grandpa, can we ride him?" "Absolutely not! Horses are for riding, not dogs." Grandpa seemed angry about my question. Grandpa shut the car off, and as soon as I opened the car door, Yuki started sniffing my pants and runners. I grabbed my things and headed inside, with Yuki on my heels and Lauren not far behind. The ranch house was warm. I was glad to be there. There was tons of space and lots of different things to do. And Yuki was my favorite dog in the whole world, though I think he liked Lauren more than me. I walked into the living room. That's when I saw the Christmas tree. Wow! How tall is it? "Almost 5 meters, Grandpa said, coming up behind me. "Meters?" I looked at Grandpa. "What's that in American?" "About 16 feet, Grandpa said with a proud grin. "You're in Canada now, so you'll have to speak Canadian." Grandpa chuckled. "It's the most gigantic tree I've ever seen." By now, Lauren had come over to see all the tree lights and decorations. "Look at this rocking horse and this star and the tiny teddy bear and this candy cane and this little angel and this mouse and all these presents." The twinkling lights reflected off the shiny wrapped gifts, shooting sparkles over the walls and wooden floor. "Are these for us?" I couldn't believe my eyes. Grandma and Mum had finished hanging up their coats and now joined us around the tree. "No, there are a few in there for your cousins," Grandma said. "Makenna and Liam should arrive in an hour or so. Would anyone like some hot cocoa and special Christmas cookies? After you hang up your coats and put your boots away." We must have looked a sight, for only then did I realize we had been dropping our coats, mitts, and hats on the floor while looking at the tree. Our winter wear lay in a pool of color around our feet. Mum, Dad, Grandma, and Grandpa were chatting in the family room, where Grandma had set out mugs of hot chocolate and a plate of cookies. A fire was roaring in the fireplace. Yuki was sleeping in front of the hearth. I took 2 cookies and a mug of cocoa and sat on a large cushion next to Yuki. From there I could see everyone and everything, like the largest flakes of snow falling outside the floor-to-ceiling window. The cookies and cocoa warmed my insides. I was smiling. I was so happy to be here. The doorbell rang, and in came Auntie, Uncle, and my cousins Makenna and Liam. They had grown taller since our camping trip in August. Makenna's hair was really long, which made her look more like a girl even though she still wore jeans and cowboy boots. Liam was almost as big as me, even though he was only 8 years old. After more hugs and kisses, the adults all sat in the living room, while we kids went up to the loft. That's where the pool table and other games and toys were. "What do you want Santa to bring you?" Makenna asked me. "There's no such thing as Santa," I quickly told her. I was old enough to know these kinds of things because I was 10. Every kid in the world who was 10 knew that Santa was a myth. Makenna was only 6. I remembered believing in Santa and the Easter Bunny when I was 6. Then someone at school told me Santa and the Easter Bunny were nothing but a fable. That's when I figured out that my mom and dad were really the ones packing all the toys and tagging them with Santa's name or hiding eggs and chocolate bunnies for the Easter egg hunt. "There is so a Santa!" cried Makenna. Lauren spoke up. "Luke's 10. 10-year-olds don't believe in Santa." "Do you believe in Santa?" Makenna asked Lauren. I was wondering how my twin was going to answer. I'd told her all year long that Santa was a fake. But she had seen some movie called Santa Claus, and ever since then she thought he might be real. Lauren glanced over at me before saying slowly, "Maybe." "I know he's real," Makenna said firmly. "He brought me exactly what I wanted on my Christmas list last year." "My dad works for the post office," I tried to explain. "He said the post office gives a phony address for the North Pole, and whenever stupid little kids write to Santa, the post office just throws all the letters into a gigantic trash bin. Santa never got your list. Your parents pretended to be Santa. That's how come you get what you want for Christmas." "I'm not a stupid little kid, and my mom and dad don't pretend to be Santa Claus," Makenna stammered while coming towards me, staring eyeball to eyeball. "I wrote Santa a letter this year, too. You watch, Smarty Pants, and you'll see I'll get what I asked for, and you won't get anything." Liam hadn't said a word. I was thinking maybe he was rolling all this over in his mind. "Ask your brother. He'll tell you there's no Santa," I prodded. I looked at Liam. "So, cuz, tell your sister there's no Santa, and that only babies believe that lie." Not saying a word, Liam just looked at Lauren and then at me. A tear came into Makenna's eye. "You told me that you believed in Santa," she said to her older brother. "What's the truth? Do you believe or don't you?" Makenna put her hands on her hips and waited for her brother to answer, while I glared at Liam. Mum called up from the kitchen, "Time to hang your Christmas stockings." "Later," I said to Liam as we all marched downstairs. I didn't want the girls to think that Liam was going to get away without telling us what he believed. It was only fair that we all knew where he stood on this matter. I might as well tell you now that I never did find out his answer that Christmas Eve. By the time we all finished finding the perfect place to hang our stockings on the fireplace, and by the time Makenna put cookies and milk out for the Santa that didn't exist, I was so tired I could hardly keep my eyes open. The last 2 hours, which were really 4 with the time change, were too much. Nighttime was very quiet at the ranch. No city traffic, no ambulance sirens, no electrical hum from all the wires outside. It was just still. I never slept so hard in my whole life. When I finally did wake up, one of the cats was curled up on the bed next to me. I could feel the rhythm of her purring. It was still dark outside. I looked over at the clock, 6 a.m. I didn't think anyone else was awake, but soon I heard someone in the kitchen. I listened more carefully and realized it was Yuki, crunching and munching his breakfast. Lauren was snoring across the room. Grandpa, Uncle, and my dad were snoring so loud I could hear them all the way from their bedrooms. Would I snore when I grew up? I don't think so. I stared and stared at the ceiling until I heard footsteps in the kitchen. I listened hard, and this time I knew it wasn't one of the pets. I sat up, and that's when I heard the coffee perk growling away. A few minutes later, I could smell the coffee. There was a rule at the ranch. We weren't allowed to get up on Christmas morning until Grandpa did. He was always the first one up, and he always made coffee. So I figured it was safe for me to get out of bed. "Good morning," Grandpa said quietly. "Want some juice?" He handed me freshly squeezed orange juice in a glass with red poinsettias painted on it. As I took a sip, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Liam, followed by Makenna, and then Lauren. The household was coming to life. "Good morning, kids," Grandpa said more loudly this time. That's when Grandma came around the corner. "When can we open presents?" Makenna asked. "When everyone's out of bed," Grandpa said. "Who wants toast?" "I'm not hungry," Liam told him. "I'm ready to open presents." "Patience," Grandma said. "Your mom and dad may be a little tired after traveling yesterday." I knew what that meant. Auntie and Uncle had probably stayed up late wrapping all the presents that were supposed to be from Santa Claus. We didn't have to be too patient for too long, because soon Auntie, Uncle, Mom, and Dad came into the kitchen. We opened our stockings while Mom and Dad ate some toast. Grandpa opened the French doors that led into the living room. We made our way to the tree. A hush fell across the room. Mom and Dad glared at the tree. Grandma and Grandpa were struck white with silence. Auntie and Uncle put an arm around Makenna and Liam. My mouth fell open. I couldn't believe my eyes. Every gift was